evening. Welcome back to an episodic edition of What's So Funny, the show that probes the minds, the brains, the psyches of the people who bring you the funny. I'm Guy McPherson. This week we have a big-time show with big U.S. south of the border entertainers. That's right, we got Jon Reep and Tom Segura.
Hey there, Pumpkin. This is Tom Segura. What's So Funny? The podcast. CFRO 102.7 FM Vancouver. Turn it on, listen up, take your pants off. This is going to be good.
It is going to be good, and it was good. They are not live in studio, but that's okay. I just spoke to them like a couple nights ago. Last night in the case of Jon Reep. We'll get to Jon Reep second. First off, though, I spoke to Tom Segura in between shows at Yuck Yuck's Comedy Club. We were sitting outside on Burrard Street. You'll hear the sound of the traffic going by, life going by as we talk comedy. Tom Segura, welcome back to Vancouver. You were here with Jay Moore. When was that?
I think that was May.
May. Was that your first time in Vancouver?
First time, yeah. And I actually didn't even make it into proper Vancouver. I was in Richmond, right?
Yeah, it's Vancouver.
But everybody gives me shit about that. So they're like, you weren't in Vancouver, man.
So you didn't even, for that night, you just stayed out in Richmond and then came back.
Spent the night there.
And
flew back.
So, and do you travel around with him a lot? I know you spoke very well. He told me that he just likes to hang out with you. Like, that was a big criteria. He's a funny guy that he likes to hang out with.
I think that, I've opened for him many, many times, and I find that a lot of people that are on like that bigger, star level, they bring openers with them partially because they like their comedy and they know they can do a good job. But I think it's more important that they feel like that you're not going to annoy the shit out of them or something, So yeah, we're able to hang out pretty well. He's a good guy.
Well, that's cool. Where are you from originally?
Originally Cincinnati, but I moved around a lot.
Oh, as a kid?
As a kid, yeah.
Like, because? Military?
Fugitives. No. My dad just got moved within the same company. Like, got different job, promotions and whatnot, and so we just ended up in different places. Minneapolis, Milwaukee, Florida. Lived in all those places.
So is this why you're the clown, Tom? You had to go into a new school and...
I think I'm going to start weeping right now, but yes.
Yes? Really?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that's the mechanism you develop. Like, when you're a new kid, especially when you're like young, you just want like kids to like you. So I think that's when you start, trying to be funny. So the kids are like, well, he might be a new kid and a douche, but he made us laugh. So yeah, I think that's when comedy started.
And when did you get into comedy, professionally? Or as an amateur up on stage?
I did some improv, like in high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did a little bit.
An improv team?
Like a little improv group, yep, in high school. And it was just for like one summer. I loved it, but I didn't do it again. Like, I just let it, it was that thing. I did like one play or something, and that was that. And then in college, I was a communications major, which is like just because I was lazy, you don't have to do anything, and we would do like these videos, like short videos, and that was like kind of working that muscle a little bit, like writing, like short films essentially. And then from there, after a couple different jobs, I moved to LA and I started doing the Groundlings.
Oh, well, is that more sketch?
That is, I think, well, the Groundlings, I mean, if you get to to the actual touring group, they do a lot of sketch, but they have a lot of focus on improv. So it was improv heavy again, the training and stuff, a lot of improv, characters and improv. Right. And in my class, because I went through like 2 or 3 levels of the Groundlings school, there were a bunch of stand-ups who were just taking it. And they were basically like, oh, you should try stand-up, you'll love stand-up. I hadn't done it at that point. And they're the ones that took me around. Sam Tripoli and Nick Wegner took me to a couple rooms, and I was like, oh, this seems awesome. Like, I loved what I saw. And I was like, yeah, I'll try this. So I lied to one of the bookers and told them that I was already like a working stand-up, and I got started that way.
And how many minutes could you do?
The first show I did, I was booked to do, I think, 7, and like the night before I woke up throwing up, like with anxiety. and completely out of like just so nervous about it. And when I got to the room, there's always a list of like when you're going up, right? So they're like, you're 6, and I was like, okay. So I started to like drink beer, trying to calm my nerves. And the MC, she did her like 5 minutes at the top, and she goes, and then your first comic is Tom Segura. Tom, and I was like, I thought I was 6. And I run up there, and she looks at the list like while we're on stage, and she's like, oh yeah, I screwed up. You were supposed to go 6, but you just go now. And I was like, I had to act like I'm cool with that, It was actually good because it threw me in there. I didn't get a chance to like.
Yeah, you could have psyched yourself up even more.
Yeah.
Or out.
Out, exactly. Yeah. I almost did.
Oh, that's good. So what was it that these 2 guys that were in the Groundlings said you would love stand-up? What was it that they saw in you, or what would you see in somebody who is in improv that makes you think maybe you're better suited to stand-up, or maybe you just really like it? What do you see?
I think, if I can remember back, I think it was just like having like some funny lines about what we were like, not just like in the improv sense, but like having like commentary, and like in stand-up you always want to have like, or try to have like a perspective, and I think just in that, like when they saw me doing it, they just were like, oh, like I think you like standing up there and talking,
Right.
So they totally encouraged me. Those guys are totally the reason why I do stand-up.
Were you finding that all your characters were the same type?
Trying to remember. I don't, maybe down at their core. I mean, it was. I enjoyed doing the character stuff. I didn't continue to do it afterwards, but maybe they had like a similar perspective. I didn't even think about it. Yeah.
And so, this is in L.A.
Yeah.
You moved to L.A. to do comedy, or is that just where your family ended up?
I knew I wanted to do comedy. Like, I didn't know what angle. Like, I was like, maybe I'll be an actor. I knew deep down there was like, I like stand-up and it'd be fun to do stand-up, but I didn't, it's kind of like, I didn't know how to get into that, so I was like, well, I'll get into like improv or sketch, which seemed more accessible, and I knew I wanted to do that, but I just didn't know what path I'd end up taking,
And a lot of people have gone from the Groundlings to Saturday Night Live.
Oh, yeah.
And to Friends, I know.
They have crazy alumni from there, and that was definitely part of the allure. Like when you went there and you see on the wall like the photos of the people who've been there, you're like, oh, okay, I'll end up like one of these guys. That's what you think. Like, I'll be on SNL, or I'm sure I'll be in movies next week.
And no doubt you tried.
Absolutely.
Or you auditioned a lot.
Absolutely.
And does seeing those people on the wall provide a constant source of inspiration, or is it just a resignation of, I'll never get to be like that?
No, I don't think it's ever that. I think it's a combination. There's 2 types of inspiration you get from people that are really successful in entertainment. One of them is you go, that guy or that girl is awesome, and it's like, I really admire that person. And the other one, which is I think even the bigger motivation, is when you go, oh, I'm way fucking funnier than that person. So I'll get it. So my super fans here in Vancouver.
Yeah, we're sitting outside Yuck Yucks on Burrard here in between shows. We're at the comedy festival. You're headlining here all weekend. Of course, it'll be over by the time this airs, but a good experience. It was a great show that I just went to anyway.
It's been fantastic, man. You never know what to expect in any booking. Sorry.
No.
Any club or anything, but particularly when you're going to like a different. I mean, you're going to a different country, so you have like apprehension about your material. Like you kind of have a little bit of that. Like, I wonder if this is going to work. Even though I did that theater and that went well, you kind of wonder. And I love the layout of the room. I love that dark, and it's intimate, and it's been fantastic so far. I love the city. This is a really cool city. Well,
let me just say, I saw Arch Barker last night, and he spent probably the first 15 minutes unsure of whether we'd heard anything from the American news, about the congressman who goes, "You lie," to Obama, and asking, is gas expensive up here? Like, just not knowing. And I just want to say, you can pass this on to all your comedian friends. We get all the references, okay? You don't need... Because we watch American TV,
sure.
And they don't stop to go, wait a second, have you ever heard of In-N-Out Burger, even though we don't have it. We've heard of it.
Right. But that doubt is definitely there. Like you still wonder, you know.
Yeah.
Like, right. And sometimes it's literally right. Like the moment your brain is processing the word,
Right.
and you're about to say it, and it's normally like, you know, part of a punchline. In your brain, you go, have they ever fucking heard of this? And then you say it, and if there's laughs, you're like, oh yeah. And if there's not as much laughs, you're like, that's a bad reference. And you immediately want to...
Really, even though, say on any given night at a U.S. club, maybe there's not as much laughter, you wouldn't even think, oh, it's a bad reference.
Right.
You would just think, what a stupid crap.
Right, exactly. And then from here, if you're here, you don't go, oh, they're dumb. You go... that I'm dumb. I should have researched and found out that they don't have fucking, I don't know, whatever, Outback. I don't, you know, whatever. You wonder, you doubt it, you know. So once you get a couple shows under your belt, you're like, oh, okay, like, everything's cool.
How much of the year is the airport or bus pulls away from in front of the studio? How much of the year do you spend on the road?
A lot of it. I mean, this year I've been on the road basically 3 weeks of every month. So,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, you know, flying back and stuff, but yeah, gone just about 3 weeks of every month.
And it's usually the case where you're going in and playing, and there are a lot of locals on ahead of you.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know, there's always a local MC.
Right.
And then the feature acts, the middle acts, can be from anywhere. Like, at least, you know, in the clubs that I play in the States, like, they'll bring in... Some clubs really develop their comics, and so they keep their middle acts local as well. Like Acme in Minneapolis does that. Comedy Works in Denver does that because they have a real like development program for their comics. So then you'll get local for both. But everywhere else, the feature can be from anywhere.
Okay. Tonight and during this festival, it is all local, isn't it?
I think that's great. Yeah, I think it's really good to have your locals as part of your festival. Right. Absolutely.
And do you sense, I mean, I don't know if you're back there actively listening, stealing their jokes to take them down to the stage. No, if you're actively listening, is there a difference in the style of Canadian comedy or Vancouver comedy that you hear elsewhere? Is it just, you know, it's all individual and it depends on the comic?
I think it depends on the comic. I mean, just like in the last 2 nights, I've seen 8 different Vancouver comics, and I would say that none of them sound like the other one, you know, except for your silly fucking accents. But no, but they all had different styles, different, you know, like some of them are really silly, and some of them are like, you know, kind of commentary and rants, and some of them are set up punch. So I think that's the same everywhere.
Sure. Okay. I mean, you say in your act that you just moved to downtown Hollywood or Los Angeles.
Downtown Hollywood,
Is it true?
Yeah. I'm not actually. If you look at it technically, I'm not in proper downtown. I'm on the west end of downtown, but it's actually a much worse neighborhood that I live in than actual proper downtown. Like my neighborhood is particularly bad.
It is or isn't?
It is. Yeah. It is. Yeah. There's a lot of gangs and shit, and gunshots every night.
Wow.
It's not good. And I have a wife, so I feel
so she can protect you.
She can protect me.
So that's good.
Yeah.
No, that is horrifying, and you know, I hear a car backfiring, or maybe it's a gunshot. I don't know, like once every couple months, and I think, I got to move.
The other day, this is no shit. I hear them all the time, but a lot of times they sound like, you know, not distant, but like you're like that's, you know, that's like, I don't know, 10 blocks away or something, and the shot was so loud that I was alone sitting on my couch. And it was so loud that I jumped on the floor. Like, and I just covered my head. Like, I felt, like, ridiculous, like, thinking about what I looked like. Because it sounded like it was literally, like, outside, just outside. So I called the building manager, and I was like, hey, man, like, did you just hear that? And he was like, no, I didn't hear anything. And I was like, you did not hear those gunshots? And he was like, no. And I was like, that's insane. That was so loud. And we hung up, and then he called me back, like, a minute later. And he goes, oh, hey, I just ran into a guy that said he saw someone get shot outside. So, yeah, those were gunshots. And I was like, oh, great. And they closed down, like, the whole street, crime scene. And
wow. I was going to say it was him if he didn't hear it. So does this provide you sort of an inspiration to continue to rise up and sort of get out of that neighborhood?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, for a couple reasons. First, like, it's awesome to be like in a city like this. This city feels like a real, live city. You know what I mean? So, in that sense, you're like, oh, I want to move somewhere cool, and being a part of like a festival like this and these crowds makes you just want to get better and improve and get further along in your career for sure.
Do you have to be in Los Angeles to be? I mean, obviously the other choice, I guess, is New York. But if you're traveling 3 weeks out of the month anyway,
you're totally right. Like if you're working the road a lot, you can do it out of anywhere. The two things that keep me from moving are my wife is an LA native and refuses to live anywhere outside of Los Angeles.
Oh, really?
So that would be number one. And secondly, because I also do audition and things like that, it's kind of the place to live. But yeah, the more you do stuff, if you're just doing stand-up, you can live absolutely anywhere. Right. You don't need to be in LA.
So you auditioned. You also is it audition for writing jobs too? There's a lot of writing and comedy.
I've done writing samples for shows, but it's mostly like TV and film auditions, of which I've booked absolutely zero. So maybe I should just move and do stand-up.
That doesn't get to you though, does it?
No, like you see the auditions as like you're like, this is like rolling the dice, and you talk to like successful actors and stuff, and they tell you they look at the auditions the same way, like you never know, and you try to prepare the best you can, and you see what happens. But auditioning is a nightmare. I hate auditioning, but you have to do it.
I want to talk about some of the things you talked about in your act, and one I was thinking when you were talking about how you got to judge people.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm reading the book Blink, which is we all make snaps.
It's a fantastic book. Yeah, all of his are.
Yeah. So, and he's Canadian. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
There you go.
Wow.
But he's been in the States for years.
For a long time, yeah.
So, yeah, we all make those snap decisions. We don't want to admit it.
Yeah.
But I was thinking as you were talking about that, a lot of comics are writing books now. There you go. There's your book. A funny take on judging people and not being afraid to judge people, and the reasons why you should have. The guys with the tattoos on their face and their necks.
You gave me like the best idea ever.
There you go.
I think I'm going to give you a special thanks.
Special thanks in the beginning. Yeah. I would love that.
Yeah, no, that's because I totally, I really hate when people say that, like especially when they wear it like a badge of honor, when they're like, I'm not one to judge people. Yeah. And you're like, well, yes, you are. Like, maybe you don't announce it, but you're judging people all the time.
Yeah.
Of course. Especially over the things that people claim they don't judge people on.
Such as?
Appearance, behavior, actions, Yeah, I'm judging that guy. Totally.
This guy walking by with picking up bottles.
Yeah, with 3 bags full of bullshit, and I'm not letting him into my room.
There you go.
Judgment.
Yeah. And you do talk about, you say you don't have any tattoos. I also want to say I don't have any tattoos, but I'm of the age where a lot of people my age don't have tattoos. This is a younger person's game, and it's everywhere. But I see them in comedy clubs, big muscle-bound guys with big tattoos. Do they ever come up to you and talk to you after the show?
It's so funny that you asked me that. Of all the jokes that I've ever written and performed, the one that has gotten me the most backlash and the most close to getting my ass kicked is tattoos. Like, of all the shit I've ever said, people have approached me. I mean, people really some people do love their fucking tattoos. Like, they're like, it's like they treat them like they are their children. Like, they're like, and I've had people yell out during it, like, fuck you, man, like ready to throw down over my tattoo joke, And
it's only tattoos on the face you're talking about, too.
Well, the joke, the first one is that the stories that accompany tattoos are just terrible, because every friend that I have that's said, why'd you get, because everyone pretends like there's a real story behind this, man, but it's always dumb shit, It's like, well, we were in Daytona, and the pizza guy didn't come on time, so then we got these things. These are Vikings, and you're like, what kind of shit is that, man? That because it's just all the stories are bad. But I think, in addition, neck and facial tattoos are totally signs of insanity, basically.
Yeah, turn around and look when you say that. That's right.
I know, right? You gotta watch your shit.
Yeah, it is interesting. I had a theory that a tattoo hasn't been made that can be covered up. So if you have it on your lower calf, you will always wear the pants that show that off, even in the winter.
Sure.
If you have it on your biceps, you wear the sleeveless shirt.
Right.
And if you have it on your lower back, you got to wear the shirt that goes above it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. It is a big point of pride for people.
Oh, and the love, like the passion that they have for those tattoos, like for the artwork and the meaning and what it is, because most of them are garbage, like they're not impressive, but it's that tattoo has a special meaning for them, which I guess, to each his own, but really, like, that's what you're going to find value in your life, in the tattoo that you got.
Yes. And how old are you?
30.
Oh, so you're a young guy. You don't even get it yet.
No.
Because 10 years from now, you go, whatever you liked at 30, I mean, you might still like it, or you might hate it.
Yeah.
You might, if you look at a picture of yourself from when you're 20, you go, what was I thinking wearing that?
Yeah.
And is that going to happen? What do you see down the road for these people with ink all over their bodies?
A lot of regret. a lot of regret, and then maybe a lot of acting out to overcome those feelings. Maybe a lot of drugs, fights, criminal activity.
Okay, I also want to ask, these sports caps. You mentioned sports caps. I happen to be wearing one right now.
Cougar.
The Washington State Cougars.
That's right, man.
Now, I know nothing about them. I'm like you. Your bit is that people come up to you.
We just high-fived.
Yeah. And I have a very large head. And it's hard for me to get a cap that fits. But I need one also because I'm bald. And it's freezing in the winter, and I get sunburns in the summer.
Sure.
There you go. So I find one that fits and that doesn't look stupid.
Yeah.
This doesn't look stupid, does it?
Not at all.
Okay, thank you very much.
Look sharp.
But I've had so many people come up to me.
Right.
Cougars, what do you think of the coach? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't.
Yeah. Stop talking to me, man.
You're a fan of the Cougars? I'm actually a fan of caps that fit my head.
Yeah.
That's what I'm a fan of.
That's exactly, yeah. I'm a fan of clothing and the accessories that come with clothing, and like I really don't want to have a conversation with you. Yeah. And one of my friends, like, he's the one that always approaches people like that. I'm like, dude, what are you doing right now? Like, he sees a guy with like a Ravens jersey on, and he'll just go up to him and start talking to the guy, and the guy's like, I'm trying to eat a sandwich. Like, why don't you talk to somebody else,
So is everything from your act really stuff that you think of because you come across in your day-to-day life?
Yeah.
And it's true to you in some way?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's the best way to, in my opinion, to do comedy. It's the stuff that will always work the best. It rings true as if it's true to you. If you start talking about shit that, there's obviously like silly jokes that you can make about whatever, and some people that's like their style of comedy. But if you're giving like opinions and like your thoughts on things, if it's what you really think, it's going to go a lot better for you.
Has it always been that way with you? Is that how you started out doing? Or were you doing jokey joke?
I think to a degree I had it. I don't think it wasn't like an intentional thing where I was like, here's what I should do. But it was just like, because the advice that like more seasoned comics will give you when you start is like, write what you know, talk about what you know. And so like you try to do that a bit, and you obviously you fail a lot, but the more that you can get into that habit, I think the better off you're going to be as a stand-up.
Who are your comedy heroes getting into it, and then also now that you are into it?
Getting into it, I would say I was huge fan of Eddie Murphy, Bill Cosby, George Carlin, like kind of those legendary guys. Where as a kid I watched a lot of their stuff, and then now like there's a lot of great comics out there, but I think like guys that are really at the top of their game right now are like Louis C.K., Bill Burr. I love watching. Whoa,
See, we got a little bit of action. He's driving much too fast.
Wow.
Probably someone jaywalked down the street.
It's definitely not for weed. I know that.
You think? So you said Louis C.K., Bill Burr.
Bill Burr, Attell, David Cross, who's going to be here next week.
Yeah. C.K.'s coming next month.
Oh, is he? Okay, great. Patton Oswalt, fantastic.
Here last year.
He's so good. So good. Trying to think. I think Jay's great. Joe Rogan, fantastic comic. I was a big fan of, all kinds of guys. Bernie Mac and Chris Rock, Chappelle, all those guys. Yeah,
Too many.
Yeah, you can just go forever.
Yeah. And it seems like every other comic now has a podcast.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, here's another idea for you.
Yeah, I know, right?
Have you done them? Do you listen to them?
I've not done one. Somebody gave me a CD of one of the really popular ones, but I don't remember what it's called. And I listened to it for a little bit. I understand the appeal of it. I can't see myself really signing up and getting into one, with the exception of if either I happen to hear one that it hooks me, or if I know the guys and I have an interest in listening to their podcast.
Wait, someone gave you a CD of
Somebody gave me a CD
a
of
CD?
the best, the
Oh, I see.
greatest hits of this so and so person's podcast.
Right.
I couldn't get through it.
Because Jimmy Pardo is coming to the festival too with his podcast Never Not Funny.
Okay.
And they're going to be doing it at the Westin.
That's one that I've heard. That's really good, right? Everyone talks to this.
Yeah, well, I've never heard that coming from a bus before.
Yeah, right. Have you heard the podcast?
Never Not Funny?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they charge now, so...
How was it before?
Oh, I love Jimmy Pardo.
Yeah.
And, in fact, I've been listening to the other one with Todd Glass and Jimmy Dore, Comedy and Everything Else. And the best episode is the one with Jimmy Pardo as the guest. I don't know. I just like...
He's got... it seems like he's the man when it comes to the comedy podcast right now. Yeah.
So another thing from your act is talking about cyclists, another pet peeve of mine. So I related to you on many different levels. And you're right, just get on the sidewalk. This is how I drive. I drive my bike as if I have no rights, because a car can hit me, and I don't belong on the sidewalk, but I respect the pedestrians, so I'll slow down if they're around. And I think it's a win-win for everybody.
It is, and and like you said, what it boils down to is respect. It's like if you were to go into a bar and everybody in the bar was 6'8", 320, and they look like they ate steroids for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you know to shut your fucking mouth, even if you want to say something,
right,
because they're just capable of killing you. And especially, I've noticed it more and more, but living in LA, the cyclists are so brash and arrogant. And by the way, that's another topic that seems to a lot of bike riders really are defensive.
I was going to say, they must speak up too.
Oh, yeah. I've gotten emails. I did it on the radio one time. This guy was like, why don't you try to show a little more sensitivity? And I was like, why don't you get a fucking car, man? Get on a subway. Figure it out.
I know, I write about comedy, and no one ever writes in to the paper. A letter writer, ever. One time, years ago, I did a sort of a humor piece on cyclists. I got 3 or 4 letters.
They're quick to let you know.
Yeah, and they're here too. As we look out onto the street, there's a cycle lane.
Right.
At least they have a lane here. So, but it's the ones that ride in the middle of the street, and there's only 1 or 2 lanes.
Yeah.
And so if you happen to be in their lane, and you got to wait.
The other day, I'm not exaggerating at all. I was if you see that light right there.
Yes.
Okay, so if you're in the far right-hand lane and you're about to take a right, so I slow down and I take a right. From behind me, a bike rider is going that way as well, right? So we're both going that way. So as I'm turning, he's coming through the light. So I don't even see him or anything. What he does, instead of using his brain and going, that's a car and it's capable of killing me, and he probably doesn't see me because I'm coming from back here, and I should just wait for him to go and go. He goes through it and kicks my car, as he's going through the light. And then so I, jump back, and he looks back at me like I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
Like I'm a dick for not having, picked up on the fact that he was coming 20 miles an hour from 300 yards back.
You were there first.
I was there first.
Yeah.
And I can kill you. That's the main thing. I can kill you.
He may be, even if he was legally right.
Yeah, he may probably
Who
was.
cares if you're paralyzed from the neck?
Exactly. Yeah, if you're dead, who cares about the argument?
Yes, and it also goes back to another pet peeve of yours: stupid people.
Yeah, I mean,
But it's more than that. It's just as you say, respect.
it is. And I probably make way more grammatical errors in my speech and writing that I'm aware of, but I make an effort to try to speak, in a way that is clear and communicating that I had some schooling, and so it blows my mind when you meet adults and you speak to them and just their speech is so just backwards and underdeveloped, and you're like, how have you gotten through life, man? Like, you weren't abandoned. You didn't grow up in a barn somewhere. Like you were in schools and shit too, and this is really how you communicate. It's alarming,
It is, but many times my vocabulary isn't awful, but a lot of times I sit there and I can't think of how I want to describe something or what I want to say. No, but and then I hear people like you're talking about, and I feel more sorry for them that, wow, there's so much more that they can't even put into words.
That's a better way of looking at it. Why you keep upstaging me? Yeah, I guess I should just feel lucky that the little bit of ability that I have with the English language would be cherished by those that are less fortunate.
Not as funny, though.
That's totally true.
It is nice that you can get up on stage all over the country and in Canada, and in a nice way, give it to these people and tell us your opinions. And do you think it changes any minds? Do you think anyone goes, yeah, he's got a point?
I think it does, but there's no effective result of that. In other words, I think sometimes, you even hear it sometimes, people walking out of a show go, oh, that he was right, or that's interesting, or you'll hear the conversation, and that's I think that's just gravy on it. That's cool, but I don't think it ever someone's like, I'm going to change my life because of what that guy said. I don't think it has that effect. But if you're actually having that effect, you're pretty spectacular,
Well, yeah, I remember seeing Bill Maher at a big theater show, and he had a big chunk on cell phones and the rudeness of people and how ridiculous it is that you need to be on them all the time. This was before texting. And people were laughing and clapping, and so you would think, agreeing.
Yeah.
Show ends, everyone gets up in the aisle. I look around, so everyone's on their cell phone. I go, did you hear what he just said?
Yeah, but because I think that for the most part, you go to a show and it's a show. It's amusing, it's entertaining. But if it does get you to think about something, that's awesome. Carlin had that thing too where, he could get people from both sides of the aisle to agree on something, or to really, or he would enlighten you. You'd be like, holy shit! I don't know if it, I'm sure he actually probably did change the way some people thought, but he also highlighted absurdity and behavior and stuff so well that I think it would more than make you think about it. It would really stick with you.
But you'd like to change a few minds, wouldn't you?
I mean, I can't say it's my goal. I've never really thought of it in those terms. I guess it would be flattering if someone was like, you really changed the way I think. Now I demand that homeless people entertain me when they ask for something like that. But
you know what I think it's going to do? When you write that book about judging people, people are going to start to change their minds.
I really like you.
Let's make out. All right, you got another show. This is getting awkward. You got another show to prepare for. Where else are you going to be? Where can people see you?
Let's see.
You got a website.
I do. I try to keep it updated. I go to Peoria, Illinois, next weekend.
Wow.
And then I have private event, Cincinnati. Then I go to Denver. Then I go back to Cincinnati to do the Go Bananas, the club there. And then I go to San Marco Island, Florida, the week after that.
This keeps your marriage fresh, doesn't it?
It does. Every time I see her, it's like, hey, who are you? And my wife's a comic, too.
Oh, is she? Who is she?
Christina Pajitsky.
Pajitsky. You could just Google that.
And I think her website is ChristinaComedy.com.
Thank God.
Yes, it's easier than trying to spell Pajitsky.
How do you spell it, though?
It's actually spelled Pazsitzy.
And Z is like Z.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, she's fantastic.
Oh, really?
Very funny.
So she's on the road, too? Do you travel together?
Sometimes, not that often, but every once in a while we'll get to do a show together, on the road, which is fun. But she's got a lot of stuff going on herself, so she's busy.
She's like the Shecky Magazine people, the couple that do that. They always travel together and perform.
But it's hard because when you're not in a position to make any demands, which I'm not. You go, I want to bring this person. They don't go, oh, okay. They're like, you're lucky to get booked, man. Okay. So here's what's going to happen. But if you get to that point where you can call shots, yeah, you can bring whoever you want.
Well, it's great talking to you.
And
enjoy the rest of your time. You're here tomorrow night, too.
Yep, and I leave Sunday. Yeah.
And you leave Sunday. Well, I hope to have you back soon.
I hope you guys have me back soon.
And if you're ever in town on a Sunday night, you can do the show live in the studio.
I would love
Instead
to.
of sitting out here on the street.
Podcast will be with you.
Thank you. Tell anyone else ask you, say no.
Fuck off. I'm going with you.
Thank you very much. All right, Tom, thanks.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Tom Segura, recorded live Friday night outside on Burrard Street, outside Yuck Yucks. I enjoyed Tom's set. He was the headliner there all weekend. Hope you're enjoying the show. The show is What's So Funny. I'm Guy McPherson. We're here every Sunday night from 11 till midnight. Next up, we have another interview, this one even fresher, if you will. It's with Jon Reep.
Hey, this is Jon Reep, and you're listening to What's So Funny? I don't know, but it's on CFRO 102.7 FM, Vancouver.
See, that guy. He was the winner of The Last Comic Standing on NBC television. Not the last year it was on, the year before that. He thinks it was 2 or 3 years ago. See, he doesn't even know. We sat down below Laugh Line's Comedy Club last night in between his headlining sets there for the Global Comedy Festival. By the way, that festival continues all next week. Here's my interview with Jon Reep. Jon Reep. Well, this is the nicest green room I've ever been in.
Yeah, it's almost like we have an entire restaurant to ourselves. They even left wine glasses on the tables. This place is out of business, too. So we actually are sitting, for your listeners, we're sitting in the bar/restaurant below Laugh Line's Comedy Club, which used to be a restaurant, but it's out of business. But it still looks like at any moment a waiter's going to come out and take our order because, it's like walking into, like we found the Titanic. Everything's the same.
You rocked it tonight?
Yes, did I?
Didn't you?
I don't know.
You must.
I'm not a self-evaluator.
You must go through like any comic, and
I thought I did well. There were, there's a couple of drunk ladies in the front that you have to deal with every now and then.
You dealt with them?
I dealt with them. And
they were loving you, though.
Well, that's my problem, and it's a good problem to have.
They love you too much?
I don't know. It's because they're drunk, right? Yeah. And they're celebrating, they're high-fiving, they're standing up and clapping during just not even like applause-worthy jokes. I mean, it's like the premise they're standing up and shouting. And I think it's just a drunk girl thing. And it just gets in the way of other people who aren't hammered, who are actually listening and enjoying. And it sucks that you have to tell people who love you to shut up.
Yeah. Yeah, because they were a little deflated after that.
Well, but they behaved, and then they came up afterwards and kicked their leg up in the air.
God bless them. So we know you, of course, mostly. Well, you mentioned the Dodge commercials, but if you don't watch commercials, Last Comic Standing, if you're a comedy nerd like I am and many of us are.
Right.
Are you the reigning one, or was there some? No, it was...
There was a girl who went after me.
That's right.
And then they canceled the show. Right.
So you're the penultimate champ.
I'm like the last dude to win. Right. There was a chick who went after me. Who was very funny, by the way.
Yeah, her name?
Eliza
Schlesinger.
Eliza Schlesinger.
That's it.
Yes, very funny. Cool girl. I've actually worked with her on the road a couple times.
Yeah, do you do these? Do they have alumni tours?
Yeah, well, they got this one called the Winner's Circle, and it's me and Alonzo Bowden, John Heffron, and sometimes Eliza will pop in, and we do a show. Like we'll do like 20 minutes each.
And you guys just ignored that fan, don't you?
I don't know who that is. No. Yeah,
Josh
I don't
Blue.
know. I don't know. Well, Josh, I've done shows with Josh, too. Well, the only reason we have the Winner's Circle is because we all happen to have the same agent. And that's, if it were up to me, all of us would be together. But honestly, it's more hassle to try and get all these people together at once to do a show. It's easier just to go on your own and do stuff. But I like doing it. It's fun, But I did. I won season 5 of Last Comic Standing. Did like 6 national truck commercials for Dodge trucks back in the day. And what else? Harold and Kumar, Escape from Guantanamo Bay. I'm in that.
Yep.
I play a redneck. Shocker. And I'm married to my sister, Raylene, and we have an inbred son who's a Cyclops and lives in the basement. So
Congratulations.
it's every stereotype that you could think of.
Now, is your accent? I'm just trying to think as you're talking to me now. Is it as strong as it is on stage?
It's
How do
well,
you put it on a bit?
I don't know. Well, when I'm just one-on-one, I'm not loud. I'm just sort of talking, and but once you get in front of a crowd and you get energy in you, and you've had a little shot or two of the Jack Daniels, then it comes out a little thicker,
Right.
But I don't really regulate it. Like I told you on stage, I'm a Metro Jethro.
That's right.
I'm part big city, part small town, and I can identify and appreciate and hate both of them.
From Hickory, North Carolina, if
Yeah.
that is true.
Yes,
You spend how much time there?
my whole life. I actually was born and raised in Hickory up until 1992. Graduated high school in 90. I was born in 72. And then in 90, I graduated high school. I went to a community college in Hickory for 2 years. And then I moved out of Hickory in 92 to go to Raleigh, North Carolina, which is the capital. That's where the Barney Fife used to go to party. I'm going to Raleigh the weekend. So that was the capital, and there's a college there called NC State University, and I went there for like another 4 years. Yeah.
The Wolfpack?
Wolfpack. That's right, Wolfpack.
Thank God I knew that one. Jim Valvano.
Jimmy V. That's right. Jimmy V is he's a legend there, and I was actually, he was done coaching by the time I was there, but he did come in and give like I got to see one of the last speeches that he ever gave in front of a crowd, and it was not a dry eye in the house because he was he was about to die, very feeble, and we were playing against our rival UNC Chapel Hill, the Tar Heels, and so. It was like a big booster for the team and he just it was just so sad, and then we lost. So it didn't help.
What did you study?
Well, I was I barely got into NC State. Okay, they have this program called the Lifelong Program, which means you can take 2 classes and a PE. And if you do well enough with that, they may let you in as a full-time student. I did that for 2 semesters before I even got in. And then once I got in, I was scared to death. I was like, I better take something easy. I just better pick an easy major. I just want to walk out of here with a degree at the end of the day, So I decided I was like, well, what's the easiest? I don't know. What are the athletes taking? They always take the easy shit. So it was theater. So I'll do theater. And then I did it only because I thought it would be easy. And then, it kind of was. But at the same time, I actually liked it. So I got into it and ended up being pretty good at it, I guess. Everyone told me I was, and I enjoyed it. And then started doing stand-up around that same time.
Did you also do plays?
Yeah, I did a couple plays.
Right.
Yep.
How did the folks in Hickory
Well,
take to that?
I didn't do a play in Hickory.
No,
I
but
was
they
in
must have
Raleigh.
known that their boy was in theater.
No, I would have never been a theater major in Hickory. I was a jock in Hickory. Yeah, and then I got to Raleigh and did that. But I only did 2 plays, and it was like a school play. It wasn't like, the Hickory Daily Record newspaper was reporting on my theater status or anything.
So you say you took it because it was easy, but probably there was something in you growing up that you always thought that you want to be famous or you want to entertain people?
Well, I've had who was it told me that? I think it was like a 3rd grade school teacher who told me, because I was always cutting up and always making people laugh, but she was cool with it. She was like, "You're really funny," and she told my parents one time, "You should take this kid to Hollywood right now," as a joke. But when my parents told me she said that, it always stuck with me, and so I kind of always wanted to be a comedian, but when you're from a small town without a comedy club, it's not even like a possibility. You don't even think of it as a real job. It's just something you see on TV or in movies, So I did have it in the back of my brain. So once I actually got to Raleigh, where they had a comedy club, and I could pick a major that would help me, be in front of people, acting out things, it started seeping in. Well, maybe I better try this, And then that was a scary moment when it was right in front of you, where it's like, okay, you've wanted this your whole life. There it is. Are you sure? And then it's scary because now it's like, well, what if I fail? What if I suck? Then you're like, then you have nothing really in the back of your mind to look forward to or pretend that you're going to want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was a very scary moment. But I tried. I did it open mic night. I went in and sucked for about 2 weeks and learned from other people and just kept going back until I got better and better.
2 weeks later. So who were you listening to? Were you listening to Southern comedy growing up, or was it stuff from TV and movies?
Yeah, it was. Well, when I was a kid, like kids on Saturday morning watch cartoons, I was watching like old reruns of Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis movies, and those guys made me laugh my head off. So I grew up on that, physical, absurd, crazy, and then as I got older, my taste would change. I loved Steve Martin for a long time. I loved Robin Williams for a while, Richard Pryor, Bill Cosby, Jim Carrey. Dana Carvey is actually one of my favorite stand-up comics, not even just in sketches, but he's got great stand-up ability. I like him. But, as you get older, it changes, but not really there's not like one Southern sort of red. I mean, Andy Griffith, but he's not really a stand-up. Oh, he was, but he was mostly known for the Andy Griffith Show.
Right. Yeah, he told stories, humorous stories.
And that's kind of what I fell in love with, was people who could like Bill Cosby is one of the great storytellers of all time. Was there a redneck idol in my life? I didn't really have one, unless you count Andy Griffith.
Well, no. Is every Southerner a redneck?
No.
I mean, right, so a redneck idol. I'm just talking about a Southern comedian.
Right. Oh. I don't know, because when I was a kid, when I watched them, I didn't really care where they were from.
Yeah.
You just would hear them and like them.
Really, it's so different from Canada, where any Canadian's on. He's Canadian! Did you know that?
Well, they might do that some, but when I was growing up, I didn't know.
Right. I'm just trying to think who they were back then.
Jim Carrey, Canadian.
Yes, you were going to say Southerner. No,
he's got a great bit. You know how I have that one bit about I'm from a small town in L.A. People think you're an idiot or racist or whatever. He's got a great bit about being a Canadian and moving to L.A. and what it's like for him, and it's hilarious. I forgot where I found. I think he was doing comic relief back in the day, and he did that bit on there, and I found it online, and it's just really funny.
Well, when I saw you on Last Comic Standing for weeks, how many weeks did that run, by the way?
I don't know. It was like the whole summer.
Yeah. Essentially, and as you progressed and moved forward, and then eventually won, you thought, well, he's going to be on the Redneck Tour.
Right. Well, that would have been great, but, those guys have already made their millions. They don't need anybody else new.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they don't need me. They all have, private jets and tour buses. I'm just going to take away from it. So I don't...
Maybe you'd think they'd want to infuse it with some new
Not the comics. You would think their manager or their agents might want that. But, and I've done shows. Actually, I've worked with Larry the Cable Guy, and he's like the nicest guy in the world. And he's funny, and he's a good guy. And he did a Christmas special that I'm going to be a part of called Larry the Cable Guy's Hula Palooza Christmas Special, and that's the only time I've met him, and that was maybe a month or so ago. It was fun. I have met Ron White, Tater Salad one.
Great,
the guy
great
who drinks.
comic.
That's my. If I'm going to say, if I pick one, that's my favorite of the four.
Yeah.
Because he seems to be the genuine deal. He's kind of like that for real, and he's clever, and he's intelligent, and he's got that thick Texas accent, which I like too. But
and he's cool.
I do have a funny story about him.
Oh, please.
Yeah. Before he was famous, from the blue collar stuff, and I was like a feature act. It was my job at this comedy club in Oklahoma to go pick him up at the hotel room. And I never met him. I hadn't even heard of him. But he was already kind of big in that area, you know what I mean, locally. So I went to go pick him up, and I was knocking on his door. I was running a little late, and I was kind of nervous because people said he was really funny and blah, blah, blah. So I'm knocking on the door, and I'm nervous, and I'm late, and I'm like, oh, he's going to be mad. And it seemed like I knocked for 10 hours, but it was probably for like a minute. But that's a long time, knocking on the door. So finally he opens the door, right, and he's standing there looking at me, and he's wearing black socks, boxer shorts, and that's it. His hair's pushed to one side. He's got one eye open, one eye closed, and he's holding a joint in his hand. And he looks me up and down with that one eye. He goes, "We're going to be a little bit late." Like that. I was like, yeah, I think so. He goes, "Get in here." So I go in his room, man. It looked like a tornado hit it. You know what I mean? Like he was partying hard the night before or something. There was like, I mean, it looked like a college frat house. Right. And this was only 10 years ago. And like, I mean, it was even down to like there was a paper plate, right, where he had eaten some like fast food or something, and it was like a glob of ketchup with like one fry left and a cigarette put out in the ketchup. That's a hard party at night. That's the next morning what you see, right? So, and that was the first time I'd met him, and he was super funny, super nice, and we got along that weekend, and that was the last time I saw him.
Really?
Yeah. So I haven't really, other than that and working with Larry, I haven't really, toured with those guys or anything. But I would.
Sure, yeah. So going back to Last Comic Standing, now that was what, 3?
I want to say 2 years ago, maybe 3 at this point.
2 or 3 years ago, anyway. Going into that, were you one of the guys? Because I know they have people that they invite come on, and then they have people who line up.
Right.
You obviously were fairly proficient at your craft by then, that you got an invitation, but did you know for sure that you would make it?
No, not at all. I mean, I have an agent who, called me up and he said, they're doing auditions for Last Comic Standing tomorrow. Do you want to go in? I'm like, look in my mind, I kind of didn't like the show, to be honest with you. I mean, I knew it was like great exposure, but, there's a side of me that looked at that show, and as a comedian, you look at a show like that, and anytime it's like, okay, when you're on stage here as a comic, right, you're supposed to be like, not have a care in the world, be very confident in yourself and cocky and cocksure and just yelling out your jokes and being really good. There's something about being that, and then all of a sudden, when you're done, looking directly into the camera going, "Please vote for me." It just looks so desperate, and I hated the way it looked, Right. And I didn't like the reality side of it. So part of me didn't want to do it, and the other part of me realized, well, you can't beat that exposure as a stand-up comic, because it was the only show at the time that had a prime-time television network audience. Even if you did the Tonight Show, that's 11:30 at night, and there's a lot of people who won't see you. This show came on at 8 o'clock, and it was on NBC, so everyone had that channel, and most people were up that time.
And you're basically on for the hour, whereas on the Tonight Show you got 6-7 minutes.
Right, and that's it.
Once.
Right, or the Comedy Network, which is not even, you have to pay a cable or get satellite to even have that channel. And then, again, that's late at night a lot of times, too. So as a comic, you have to think, well, it's a double-edged sword, I might get on there and look silly, or I might get on there and get great exposure. So I just rolled the dice and went in, but I didn't know how far I'd get.
And you didn't look silly, so I assume it was the great exposure.
I did look. I think I did both.
So you say you didn't like the reality side. All the seasons are bleeding together, so I can't remember. At one point they stopped the house, and it was just comedy.
That was my season.
That was your season.
That's another reason. Thanks for even bringing that up. My agent sort of said, "Well, I know you don't like it. I know you think it's retarded, but hear me out." I was like, "Okay, what?" He goes, "Well, this season, you're not going to have to live in a house. Everyone's going to have their own hotel rooms, so you don't have to worry about that part of it. You'll just do challenges, together, and then go back to your hotel rooms." So I thought, "Oh, that's cool. I can handle that." And then he said, "And they're going to try and get more like seasoned road-type comedians who've been around a while, not just people who off the street they're going to do both, but they're actually going for some seasoned guys this year. So it's, you're not going to be standing in line next to some homeless guy who has nothing better to do but stand in line." So I was like, okay, well, that's good. And he goes, and the prize money goes up from $50,000 to $250,000. I was like, all right, give me the audition. So that's kind of what happened.
So not bad.
Yeah.
Jon Reep, $250,000. Yeah, and so I mean, I guess doing a show like that, would it be a horrible experience if you went on and lost right away?
No.
Even that could be positive.
Sure. I mean, if it's all, and here's where you roll the dice. It's all about how they want to paint you.
Yeah.
They painted me even a little bit to look like I was just some kid from Hickory fresh off the chuck wagon. When in reality, I've been in L.A. for 10 years. But you never heard that on that show. Ah. All you heard was, I'm from Hickory. I'm from Hickory. Which is true. I'm from there. That's not where I live.
Right.
But they didn't want to focus on that. So they made me look like some redneck who just moved there and
never done comedy
before. So that's how they painted me. So which it didn't. I don't mind it. I don't care. It's whatever. But if you're a kind of comic who cares about that kind of stuff, it could perturb you, I'm sure. And so you gotta take a chance. Roll the dice. I mean, there are a lot of guys who are really funny who did the show and don't like how they made them look, I can't think of any names right now, but I know that's true. So that happens, but you got to take a chance.
So you had been doing comedy for about 15 years before?
No.
When did you? I thought you started
10.
in 92.
No. I moved to Raleigh in 1992.
Oh, right. Okay.
But I didn't start comedy. Like I went to college and got my partying out of the way before I decided to try stand-up. Even
changed a few tires.
Changed some tires. Did that in Hickory, like in 1990.
Okay.
I left the tire changing business behind me. But I started.
You're a good man to have on the road.
Yeah. I started like 96 was when I started. 95, 96,
okay.
Somewhere around there.
Still pretty seasoned getting to the show.
Yeah.
Right? So what was your life as a comic like prior to Last Comic Standing?
Well, prior to Last Comic Standing, I was on a sitcom for 2 seasons called Rodney. There's a comedian named Rodney Carrington who had his own sitcom. Mm-hmm. And I played a cop named Gerald Bob. And that was awesome. I loved it.
Southern cop?
Yeah, it was based in Oklahoma, so definitely. And I was basically doing an impression of my dad the whole time because my dad was a cop.
Ah.
Yeah, and so I was doing an exaggerated version of him. And that was fun. And then prior to that, I had done those Dodge commercials. I was basically living in L.A., doing sets at the Comedy Store and at the Improv and at the Laugh Factory, wherever I could, And then on the weekends, I'd be flying out of town to go do stand-up at some club somewhere in America, but for less money. But now it's great, After you win Last Comic Standing, that helps, the recognition. More people come to your shows because more people have seen you,
yeah.
And that's all it is. It's just the amount of exposure, and that's all it is. I mean, there are a lot of hilarious comedians who, if they had that kind of exposure, would blow up like that. Right. It's all about getting that one little chance, and I've been pretty fortunate. I've been pretty lucky.
Yeah, and the show's off the air now, I guess for good, but you never know. I mean, something like that.
Actually, they had canceled it before and brought it back. So. Yeah, so there's a chance. It could live on somewhere else, on some other network, but you never know.
So what else? What do you have going on now? I mean, obviously the name recognition gets you work even up into Canada. Is this your first time here, by the way?
First time in Vancouver. I have done the Montreal
Just
for Laughs Festival twice, and this is my first time in Vancouver, and I love it. I love Canada.
Yeah. So you're getting to work, in places that you didn't get to work before.
That's true.
So that's good. Any series or movies or parts?
Well, I've got 2 little things I'm working on. I've got a new DVD that's coming out in October. I want to say October 20th, maybe.
Go ahead, say it.
Yeah, October 20th.
Okay.
It's called Jon Reep, Metro Jethro, and it's an hour stand-up special. And I've also got, that will also air on Comedy Central.
Oh, right.
And it's also a CD and stuff. And I've also I'm writing a movie with a buddy of mine called Cuthers, and we're going to do an independent film together. And it's called Cuthers because we are brothers and cousins at the same time.
Ah.
And it is possible for that to happen in nature. You can have, we have the same mother, but our different dads are brothers. So we're Cuthers.
I'll have to think about that.
Yeah, I know, it's mind-boggling. Or brusins, whatever you want to say. Sometimes blood is too thick. But we're working on that, and that's it, man. Just road dogging it and just getting out there trying to make cash.
You got the merchandise table set up and selling
stuff? I got this funny T-shirt. Well, I like to leave something behind if somebody wants to get something like a souvenir. And I also I'm tired of seeing all these people in L.A. and other big cities wearing this Ed Hardy.
Yeah, you mentioned that. I don't know who that is. What is
Well, you're lucky that you don't know it, because it's not. I'm surprised it hasn't invaded Vancouver yet, but
maybe it has. I'm just out of it.
That's true too. Well, it's a T-shirt design, and now they have hats and pants and shoes. It's a label called Ed Hardy, and it's everywhere. So I have a T-shirt spoofing that. Mm. Yeah, so that's what I got now. But I've got all kinds of weird shit out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for talking to us, and good luck with the rest
Thanks,
of the...
man. I got one show left, and then I'm out of here.
Looking forward to getting back home.
Well, I got to watch my football tomorrow. It's a big NFL day.
Yeah.
So
steal it. We get it up here, you know.
Yeah, I know, but you guys don't care about it. You guys
no,
like
that's
hockey.
not true at all.
Really? Well, do you like the CFL better than the NFL?
No, I think. Well, I don't like either, but most people that I know are big into the NFL.
Really?
Yeah.
More so than the CFL.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that. So, like, is the CFL like an arena league to you guys up here? Like a joke? You know what I mean?
I see. Like the arena football.
Yeah, it's just like a little like.
No, they got their fans too.
Yeah.
You know, and there's only 8 teams in the whole country.
And there's not one NFL team in Canada, right?
No,
I don't think so.
They keep talking about Toronto, but yeah, who's your team?
Well, I like the Carolina Panthers because that's where I'm from.
They're new.
They're not that new. There's newer teams than them.
Yeah,
but they're relatively new.
You didn't grow up watching.
No, I didn't. No, but I've always, when I was a kid, I rooted for the San Francisco 49ers. But I always really wanted us to have our own team, and I always told myself, once we get a team, my allegiance is going straight to our home team, and that was in '95. I actually got kicked out of a game their first season.
You did?
Yeah,
for
dancing in the end zone with the mascot. It's online. Look it up. I'll look it up on YouTube. Type in Jon Reep getting kicked out of a Panther game.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Try not to get kicked out of any more games. You're probably a VIP there now, anyway.
Well, you know what the thing is, and here's what kind of sucks: is I live in LA, so I don't even get to go to the games that I want to see. So I also root for the Chargers because they're closer to me in LA. They're in San Diego. That's like 2 hours away, And Phillip Rivers, their quarterback's from NC State, and LaDainian Tomlinson was on my fantasy football team. I'm a big football nerd, so yeah.
Fantasy football.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, you got to get home tomorrow then. All right. Thanks so much for talking.
Guy. Thank you, buddy.
There you go. How was that? Decent hour, I would say. Thanks to Jon Reep and Tom Segura for taking time out of their busy schedules to talk to What's So Funny right here on Co-op Radio 102.7 FM. Also available on podcast. Check iTunes. Check the Comedy Couch. We're everywhere. Next week, well, the Comedy Fest continues here in Vancouver, and hopefully I'll get some more interviews to play for you next Sunday night, 11 till midnight. Thanks for listening.